Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The gentle hum of the car engine faded as Ikenna parked in front of the house. His wristwatch read 3:42 p.m., 2 hours earlier than usual. A small surprise. He picked up a creamy strawberry cake from Ziora's favorite bakery, wrapped in a white box with a red bow. In the passenger seat, a bouquet of yellow lilies and purple hyacinths lay across his briefcase. Time to see those smiles, he whispered to himself, humming the tune Ziora had danced to last night in the living room. Her little ballet twirl still played in his mind. Today he just wanted to come home as the hero. Ikenna walked up the steps of their modest but beautiful bungalow in Enugu. The sun was mellow, casting a golden glow across the compound. He unlocked the door quietly, imagining Adeobi in the kitchen preparing early dinner and Ziora doing homework at the table. Surprise, he rehearsed under his breath, already smiling. But the house was silent. No sizzling from the kitchen. No clatter of dishes. No music. No giggles. Nothing. Ikenna blinked. Hello, he called, stepping in. The door shut behind him with a soft click. He placed the cake and flowers gently on the entry table and moved further in. Babe, he called again. Zizi? Still silence. Then, faintly he heard something. A muffled sob? His brows furrowed. He followed the sound, heart now quickening in his chest. The hallway to Ziora's room felt longer than usual. His black leather shoes tapped against the tiled floor like anxious drumbeats. As he neared the door, the sobbing grew more distinct. Then he heard something else, sharp words. You stupid girl. You spilled water on the rug again? Adeobi's voice. Please? I didn't mean to, came Ziora's choked reply. His hand trembled as he gripped the doorknob. Liar. Say sorry. Louder. I'm sorry, mummy. Please don't. What? A sound Ikenna could never mistake. A belt. Followed by a stifled scream. His heart stopped. He flung the door open with a force that shook the hinges. The room froze. There, in the corner, his daughter, 9-year-old Ziora, was crouched on the floor, her small arms shielding her face, tears streaming down her cheeks. Adeobi stood over her, belt in hand, her eyes wild with fury. She hadn't even noticed him at first. But when she turned, Ikenna's soul cracked. Adeobi gasped. Ikenna, it's not what it looks like. He didn't speak. He couldn't. His eyes locked onto Ziora. The fear in her expression was not new, it was familiar. Not born in that moment but grown. Cultivated. The belt fell from Adeobi's hand. Ikenna, listen please, she rushed toward him, hands raised. She poured water on the floor again and... He raised a hand, palm trembling. Don't say a word. Adeobi froze. Ikenna walked past her, kneeling beside Ziora slowly, gently. Zizi? It's Daddy. I'm here. Ziora whimpered and backed further away. Her little body shook. His heart shattered completely. No one's going to hurt you, he whispered. Not anymore. Behind him, Adeobi's voice cracked with panic. You don't understand, she's difficult sometimes. She lies. I lose patience, yes, but I'm her mother. Ikenna stood up slowly, turning around to face her. What are you? Adeobi blinked. What? That thing you just did, that voice, that rage. That isn't the woman I married. That's not the mother you claim to be. His voice was low, dangerous. She's not normal, Ikenna? Adeobi snapped. She says creepy things. Sometimes she stares at me like I'm the monster. Maybe because you are, he muttered, more to himself than her. The air between them turned thick. Adeobi's tone turned manipulative. I've been managing her. Alone. You're always working. You don't even know her. I don't know you, he snapped. Not like this. Ziora let out a whimper. Adeobi's eyes flicked toward her. Don't act like the victim now. You. Get out, Ikenna roared suddenly, causing both of them to flinch. Not out of the house. Out of this room. Now. Adeobi's mouth fell open, wounded pride all over her face. She wanted to argue, but something in his eyes stopped her. She turned and stormed out. The door slammed behind her. Ikenna knelt again beside Ziora, who was now curled up into herself. I'm sorry I didn't come sooner, he whispered, voice thick with tears. I should have known. I should have seen. Ziora opened one eye, hesitant. Did you see everything? She asked, voice hoarse. He nodded, barely holding it together. She says I'm the reason she's miserable, Ziora sniffled. She says if you hadn't married me into her life, she'd be free. He hugged her then. A firm, shaking hug. No, he said. No one should ever make you feel that way. I tried to tell you once, Ziora whispered. But, she said she'd hurt Nana if I spoke. His blood ran cold. Nana. Her pet rabbit. She had loved that bunny. It mysteriously died last year. Adeobi said it had run away. Ikenna closed his eyes, battling the rage rising in him. Not now. For now he had to protect. He lifted Ziora gently, carrying her from the room like she was made of glass. He took her to his room, laid her on his side of the bed and wrapped her in a blanket. Sleep, he whispered. I'll be right here. He sat on the edge of the bed watching her. Her eyes fluttered closed, but her hands remained clenched into small fists. Outside the window the sun dipped below the rooftops. The cake sat forgotten on the entry table. The lilies wilted in silence. And Ikenna Obi sat beside his daughter, staring at the door, not with a smile, but with a heart full of fire. The morning after was anything but ordinary. Ikenna hadn't slept. He sat upright in the armchair beside the bed, eyes fixed on Ziora's sleeping form. Her breathing had finally steadied around 3 a.m., but his own mind never did. He'd replayed the moment 100 times, the belt, the tears, the trembling voice, the look in Adeobi's eyes. Rage. Not frustration. Not stress. Rage. He heard the bedroom door creak. Adeobi entered in silence. No makeup. No earrings. Just her robe and guilt. She awake? She asked, nodding at the child. Don't, Ikenna warned. I came to talk, she said softly. I said don't. She moved to sit. You're not even going to hear me out? Ikenna stood. I saw enough. I heard enough. I felt enough. There's nothing you'll say that justifies what I walked into yesterday. Adeobi's lips pressed into a tight line. She's not an easy child. She stares. She mumbles. You don't know the pressure of being alone all day. He took a deep breath. You teach children, Adeobi. Other children don't wake up screaming. Other children don't draw. He snapped. Don't you dare blame her trauma on her. You caused it. And you've been hiding it. She looked stunned. You said the rabbit ran away. Did you kill it? Silence. Answer me. Adeobi turned her eyes away. It bit me. I threw it out the window. A cold stillness fell between them. You told Ziora it got out of the gate. I panicked, she snapped. She'd poured water on the sockets. I was angry. I didn't mean to hurt her. I just lost it. You lost it every time I stepped out, Ikenna muttered. No. No more. Adeobi clenched her fists. You're painting me like a monster. You did that yourself. Her voice trembled. I sacrificed so much for this family. And you abused the only innocent person in it. Ikenna pointed at the door. Leave. Adeobi looked like he'd slapped her. Where will I go? I don't care. But you will not stay under this roof while Ziora is in it. Her nostrils flared. You'll regret this. Not as much as I regret trusting you. He opened the door. She stood in place, glaring at him. Then without a word, she turned and walked out. The door clicked shut behind her. Hours passed. Ikenna sat beside Ziora with a notebook in hand. He hadn't written anything down. His mind, despite the rage, still searched for answers. He looked at her, his little girl. Her soft hair curled tightly against her cheeks. Her thumb twitched in her sleep. What had he missed? What did he ignore? When Ziora stirred, he leaned forward. Zizi? You okay? Her lashes fluttered open. Daddy? I'm here. She sat up slowly. Is she gone? He nodded. Her eyes filled with tears. Will she come back? He hesitated, then, not if you don't want her to. Ziora looked down at her fingers. I used to pretend you were invisible when she yelled. That way I wouldn't cry. Ikenna's chest tightened. Zizi, why didn't you tell me sooner? She said if I told you'd pick her. And send me away. Ikenna shook his head, overwhelmed. I would never, baby. Never. She told me I ruined her beauty. She said if you hadn't married me into her life, she'd be in Lagos with her dreams. Ikenna's voice cracked. You didn't ruin anything. You're my daughter. You're everything I prayed for. Ziora crawled closer and leaned into his chest. I wanted to tell you. So many times. But then I thought maybe I was just bad. He wrapped her tightly in his arms. You are not bad. You are brave. So brave. Silence followed, heavy but healing. Then she whispered, Daddy, will it ever stop hurting? He kissed her forehead. One day. And until that day I'll be here. every step of the way. Akena went to work the next day. Not because he wanted to, but because he needed time to think, to plan. Leaving Ziora with a trusted cousin for the day, he sat at his desk and stared at nothing. His coworkers smiled, waved, asked about Adeobi and Ziora. "They're doing okay," he lied. He opened an old photo on his computer, family portrait, church day 3 years ago. He zoomed in. Ziora. Plastered smile. Shoulders tense. Eyes hollow. Had it been there all along? He remembered her clenching when voices raised. The drawings of a shadowy woman. The time she accidentally wet the bed and cried hysterically. He'd told her, "It's okay, sweetheart." But she kept whispering, "Don't tell mommy." How many cries had he missed? His phone buzzed. A message from Adeobi. "You destroyed this family." No remorse. Just blame. He deleted the message. At lunch, his friend and mentor, Pastor Elijah, joined him at the canteen. "You look like a man holding in a volcano," the pastor said. Akena nodded, grateful for honesty. "I need your wisdom," he said. Pastor Elijah listened quietly as Akena recounted everything. When he finished, Elijah placed his hand on his. "Akena, I always thought Adeobi was sharp, but I've seen glimpses of her temper. And your daughter?" He shook his head. "You must protect that girl. At all costs." "I'm scared," Akena admitted. "Use that fear to move. Not to freeze. Protect your home, son. And never doubt your gut again." That night after dinner, Akena sat beside Ziora in her room. Her crayons were scattered across the table. She was drawing a house with big windows. No people inside. "Zizi," he said gently, "can we talk about what's been happening?" She didn't look up. "I won't be angry," he assured her. "I just want to understand." She drew the sun. "Did mommy hurt you often?" Ziora nodded slowly. "What would she say when she hit you?" "She called me bad. Broken. A mistake." Akena swallowed the lump in his throat. "Did she ever do anything worse?" Ziora's eyes darted up. "She made me sit in the dark closet when I cried. And when I said I missed Nana, she threw my rabbit's photo in the bin." Tears welled in Ikena's eyes. "Why didn't you come to me?" "She said you were her husband. Not my dad." His heart broke anew. "She said you wouldn't believe me. That you'd call me a liar." "That's what she always said." "Stop lying, Ziora." "Even when I didn't say anything." Akena pulled her into a hug. "From now on I believe you. Always." She sniffled. "Can I tell you a secret?" he said. She nodded. "You saved me too, Zizi. You opened my eyes. I'm sorry I was blind." Ziora looked up at him, small fingers gripping his shirt. "Are you going to take her back?" "No," he whispered. "Not unless you want to see her again." Her answer came instantly, "Never." And just like that, Ikena knew what he had to do next. It was a quiet Sunday evening when Ikena returned to Pastor Elijah's home, this time not for fellowship, but clarity. Ziora was with her cousin again, giggling over clay animals in the backyard. Seeing her laugh felt like watching a flower bloom through concrete. Inside, Elijah poured tea into 2 ceramic mugs. "Ikena," the older man said, "I've prayed since you first told me. God gave you a child to protect, not to ignore warnings." "I was blind, Pastor," Ikena admitted, taking the tea. She smiled in public, but at home, it was like she flipped into someone else. Elijah nodded slowly. "You've seen it now. The veil is off. The question is, what will you do next?" "I need to protect Ziora. I don't know if Adeobi's sick or just cruel. But I'm not letting it happen again." "She'll come back fighting," Elijah warned. "Abusers rarely surrender quietly." Akena clenched his jaw. "She already sent a message, 'You'll regret this.' She may go to the courts, twist stories. I've seen it before. Document everything, son. Every threat. Every moment Ziora opens up. Keep records." "I want to get cameras installed," Ikena said. "Catch anything else in case she tries to return." The pastor nodded in approval. "Yes. Let the truth shine without bias." There was a pause. "Do you think she can change?" Ikena asked. Elijah looked down at his tea. "Only if she admits she's broken. So far she hasn't." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Elijah said, "Whatever you do next, protect your daughter first. Above everything else." 2 days later, Ikena stood in the corner of the living room as a technician mounted the final hidden camera. "Living room, hallway and her bedroom," the technician said. "All motion activated. Stored to your encrypted cloud folder." "Thank you," Ikena said, handing him an envelope of cash. "This has to stay between us." "Of course," the man said, nodding. No one will know. That night Ikenna tucked Ziora in. I might leave the house tomorrow, he whispered, but I'll still be watching. Ziora gave a half smile. Like a superhero? He chuckled. Exactly. The next afternoon Ikenna pretended to go to work. Instead he sat in his car a few blocks away watching the camera feeds on his phone. He saw Adeobi return. Despite their fight, she still had a spare key. She didn't knock. She just let herself in. Ziora was alone inside. Ikenna's heart pounded. He watched in horror as Adeobi entered the house, called out to Ziora with sugary sweetness, and when Ziora tried to run, she yanked her back by the arm. Don't think your daddy's tricks will save you, she hissed on camera. Ziora whimpered. Please don't hit me. Adeobi raised her hand but stopped. Next time you'll wish I had, she snapped, slamming the door behind her. Ikenna drove home like a man possessed. He found Ziora curled up behind the couch, trembling. I locked my door but she still got in. I saw, he whispered, kneeling. I saw everything. He copied the footage onto a flash drive and placed it in his pocket. It was time to act. He found Adeobi the next day at her sister's salon, chatting and sipping wine like nothing happened. She looked up, surprised. Ikenna? Step outside, he said coldly. She smirked. Is this about visitation? I left her a note. I told her I'd stop by. He held up the flash drive. What's that? She asked. Your truth, he said. The real you. Recorded. Documented. Labeled. She laughed nervously. You recorded me? You think that's legal? I think child abuse is illegal. Want to test who the courts side with. Her smile dropped. You broke into my house. Threatened a child. Again. You're not sick, Adeobi. You're cruel. She swallowed hard. You left me to raise her emotionally alone, Ikenna. You worked every day and I did everything. Homework. Meals. Discipline. Discipline? He repeated, stepping closer. You call what I saw discipline? She's manipulative. She gets into my head. She's 9. Adeobi looked like she might cry, but Ikenna didn't flinch. Leave my daughter alone. If you step near my house again, I'll file charges. You're tearing our family apart, she yelled. He turned to walk away. You think you're the hero, but you weren't even there, she screamed after him. He stopped at the door. That's the thing, Adeobi. I'm here now. That night the house was quiet. Too quiet. Ziora sat at the dining table, fiddling with her cereal even though it was dinner time. She hadn't said a word since the confrontation. Ikenna sat across from her. Do you want to talk about it? She shook her head. He reached across and gently touched her hand. You don't have to be afraid anymore. She'll come back, Ziora said. She always does. Not this time, Ikenna promised. She always says that people forgive mommies because daddies don't stay. Ikenna leaned closer. I will never leave you. And if the court asks, we'll tell them everything. Together. Ziora looked up. Even if they don't believe us? We'll make them. Later that night he tucked her in. She clung to his arm. Can you stay here, just tonight? He nodded. Always. She eventually drifted into sleep. But not peacefully. She thrashed in her dreams. Whimpered. Mumbled words like don't lock me, and I'll be good. Ikenna sat on the edge of her bed, praying silently. The next morning he took her to the hospital. The doctor's report detailed bruises, some old, some fading. She'll need counseling, the doctor said. I've already booked a session, Ikenna replied. When they got back home he opened the laptop, inserted the flash drive and opened his email. To childprotection@agency.org.ng. Subject, urgent, abusive parent footage. Attached were the clips. The bruises. The history. The plea. It was time to bring in the law. 2 days later, a knock sounded at the door. Ikenna opened it to find a woman in plain clothes, firm expression, and a badge tucked at her hip. Mr. Obi? Yes. Detective Mariam Yakubu, Child Protection Services. We received your footage and complaint. He stepped aside. Please. Come in. She entered and glanced around the home. Where's your daughter? With her therapist, he replied. Every Thursday. Good. Children shouldn't be around when we talk details. She sat at the kitchen table. We reviewed the footage. It's substantial. But these cases are never easy. Mothers often play the victim card. She already is, Ikenna said. She's blaming me for her actions. Mariam nodded. We'll issue an emergency protective order. That means she can't approach your home or the school. What about custody? We're initiating an investigation. Psychological evaluations. Court-mandated parenting assessment for her. In the meantime, full custody remains with you. Ikenna exhaled. But understand, if she gets a good lawyer they may argue for joint custody. If that happens we'll need your daughter to testify. Ikenna tensed. She's already been through enough. I understand. But sometimes the truth must come from the smallest voice. She stood. We'll keep you updated. But Mr. Obi, keep your guard up. This is just the beginning. The court summons arrived on a Friday morning, folded neatly in a white envelope with a red wax stamp from the High Court of Enugu. Adeobi was fighting back. She had filed for joint custody. Ikenna held the paper tightly, staring at the bold lines. The plaintiff, Adeobi Obi, requests equal parental rights. After what she did. Later that day in the family court's waiting room, Ikenna sat beside his lawyer, Barrister Chukwemeka, a sharp-eyed man known for his no-nonsense courtroom strategies. Across the room, Adeobi entered in a sleek blue gown, face powdered, voice light as she greeted people she used to ignore. She walked like she was the victim of abandonment. Ikenna's jaw clenched. She's playing the image card, Chukwemeka muttered. Wounded wife. Isolated mother. They'll try to frame you as the absent, working husband. That's not far from the truth, Ikenna said grimly. Maybe. But the evidence favors you. Footage, medical reports, therapy records. When the courtroom doors opened, Adeobi's team went in confident. Ikenna walked in with quiet resolve. Inside, the judge, a stern woman in her late 50s, looked over the case file before speaking. We are here today to determine the interim custody arrangement for minor child Ziora Obi, she began. Adeobi's lawyer rose. My client has been misrepresented by a vindictive spouse who weaponized selective video footage. Footage that was obtained without her knowledge, violating her privacy. Ikenna's lawyer stood. Your Honor, the footage shows clear verbal and physical abuse. The child has consistently expressed fear of her mother, and our medical evaluations support that trauma. Adeobi gasped for effect. I am a mother, she cried. He poisoned her against me. The judge raised a hand. That is for the court to determine. Not this drama. Still, Ikenna could feel the tide shifting. Adeobi knew how to act. And now he realized, Ziora may have to speak. A week later, Ziora sat in a small, cozy room inside the courthouse. There were no wigs, no robes, no gavel. Just her, the judge, a psychologist, and a glass wall behind which Ikenna and the lawyers watched silently. Ziora held a teddy bear in her lap. Her feet barely touched the floor. The judge smiled kindly. Ziora, sweetheart, do you know why you're here? Ziora nodded slowly. Because of my mommy. You don't have to be scared. We just want to hear your truth. The psychologist beside her whispered, you can pretend you're talking to a friend. Ziora gripped the bear tighter. When daddy goes to work, mommy changes. How does she change? The judge asked softly. She shouts a lot. She says I ruined her dreams. That daddy would love her more if I wasn't born. The judge's brow furrowed. She hits me, Ziora added, voice almost inaudible. With a belt. With shoes. One time with a hanger. Then she hugs me and says it's because she loves me. The psychologist placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Did you try to tell anyone before now? The judge asked. Ziora nodded. But she said if I did, daddy would hate me. The judge sat back, visibly shaken. Ziora looked at the glass wall and whispered, but daddy opened the door. And now he knows. Ikenna wiped his eyes behind the glass. His daughter had spoken her truth. And now, the court had heard it too. 2 days later, the courtroom was packed. Friends, distant relatives, even neighbors from their estate had come. The final session was underway. Detective Miriam took the stand with a flash drive. We have unedited footage from the home surveillance system, she said. Time-stamped. Verified. The footage played on the monitor. Adeobi dragging Ziora by the arm. Screaming. Slamming doors. Belittling her daughter over a spilled cup of juice. The courtroom was dead silent, until one final clip played. Adeobi locking Ziora in a dark room. Screaming, you'll stay there until you learn respect. Gasps filled the room. Adeobi stood up suddenly. She deserved it. She's not normal. The judge slammed her gavel. Sit down. She's ungrateful. Adeobi shouted. I gave up everything for that little brat. The courtroom erupted into shocked whispers. Even her lawyer looked stunned. Adeobi's outburst had destroyed any defense she had. The judge turned to her, voice firm. You just showed this entire courtroom who you truly are. Ikenna didn't smile. He just looked at his daughter seated near the back. She was holding the same teddy bear. She looked lighter. The day of the ruling was gray and drizzling. Ikenna held Ziora's hand as they walked into the courthouse. She wore a yellow jacket and pink rain boots. He carried her school bag over one shoulder. Inside, everyone stood when the judge entered. I have reviewed the testimonies, evidence, and psychological assessments, she said. This court finds that Mrs. Adeobi Obi presents a danger to the emotional and physical well-being of the minor child. Adeobi sat stone-faced, lips trembling. The father, Mr. Ikenna Obi, is hereby granted full custody of Ziora Obi. A small gasp escaped Adeobi's lips. The mother will be placed under a court-ordered psychiatric evaluation and will have no visitation rights until further review. A restraining order is also hereby issued. Mrs. Obi is not to come within 200 meters of the child or Mr. Obi. Ziora squeezed her father's hand. As they exited the courtroom, news cameras waited, but Ikenna held up a hand. No comment. Just, let us heal. In the car, Ziora looked at him. Daddy, is it really over? He nodded. The storm has passed. She smiled for the first time that day. Then whispered, can we get ice cream? He laughed through the tears. Anything you want, baby. Anything. Weeks passed. Therapy sessions became part of their rhythm. Ziora spoke more, smiled more. She started painting again. Flowers, animals, houses filled with light. One day Ikenna came home and found her in the kitchen, apron on, trying to bake cookies. What's all this? He asked, laughing. Therapy homework, she replied. I'm learning to make happy things. The cookies were burnt, but he ate them anyway. That night, after story time, she looked up and said, Daddy? Yes. Can I ask you something weird? Always. Are you proud of me? Even when I cry a lot. He turned to her, eyes soft. Zizi, I've never been prouder of anyone in my life. She smiled. Even when I was scared? Especially then. There was silence and then, Daddy? Yes. You saved me. He closed his eyes. A single tear fell. No, baby. You saved me. And for the first time in years, Ikenna slept without fear. Because the house was quiet. But this time, it was peace, not dread. The news spread faster than Ikenna expected. By Sunday service, whispers had taken over the pews. The same women who once admired Adeobi's elegance now lowered their voices and cast glances at Ikenna and Ziora as they walked past. Some nodded in quiet sympathy. Others didn't look at them at all. After the service, Sister Judith approached near the church gate, arms folded tightly across her chest. Ikenna, she began, voice stiff, we were surprised to hear what happened. I always saw your Adeobi as a gentle woman. She was gentle, he replied flatly. Until the doors were closed. Judith blinked. People say you threw her out without a chance. Ikenna's eyes darkened. Did the people also see the bruises on my daughter's back? The locked doors? The fear? She faltered. I didn't mean. I know what you meant. He turned and walked away. But not everyone was judgmental. Later that afternoon, his neighbor, Mrs. Okafor, a retired teacher, knocked on his door with a small tub of pepper soup. I heard the rumors, she said. But more importantly, I saw that girl grow up. And I always wondered why she flinched when her mother raised her voice. Ikenna nodded. You saved her life, my son, she said. That's what real men do. That evening, Ziora noticed the flowers blooming in their small garden bed. Look, she whispered, pointing. Even the garden knows it's getting better. She turned to Ikenna, her eyes shimmering. It's not just us healing, is it? No, he said, voice soft. The whole house is breathing again. Ziora turned 10 in September. It was the first birthday without a storm cloud hovering above it. Ikenna planned a quiet gathering. Just a few classmates, her therapist, and Mrs. Okafor, who now visited regularly with garden tools and stories from her teaching days. The living room was decorated with soft colors. No balloons shouting for attention. Just warmth, safety, and gentle celebration. Ziora wore a yellow sundress and a white headband. Her smile didn't look forced, it radiated. Daddy, she whispered before the guests arrived, can I tell you my wish now before the cake? You're supposed to keep birthday wishes a secret. She smiled. Not this one. All right, he said, kneeling beside her. I wish. I never forget what this peace feels like. His chest tightened. That's a wish I'll help you keep, he said, pulling her into a hug. Later, as they sang the birthday song, Ziora stood in front of her cake. white icing, sprinkles and 10 small candles. I don't want gifts, she said as they encouraged her to make a speech. I just want people to be kind to children, even when they don't understand them. The room was silent. Even the kids felt the weight of her words. Mrs. Okafor wiped a tear discreetly. Ziora blew out the candles. And when she laughed, it sounded like light breaking through stained glass. After everyone left, she curled beside her father on the couch. This was the best birthday ever, she whispered. You deserve 1,000 more just like it, Ikenna replied. And for once she believed him. It had been nearly 4 months since the court ruling. Ikenna had grown used to the new rhythm: therapy, school runs, bedtime stories. He cooked, cleaned, braided Ziora's hair with YouTube tutorials. He was learning, healing, adjusting. So when his phone rang one evening with an unknown number, he almost didn't answer. But something told him to pick up. Hello? A soft voice responded. It's me. Adeabi. Silence. Then, why are you calling? They said I could request supervised visitation. I wanted to see her. What? Just to talk. I've changed. Have you? He asked coldly. I'm in a center. They're helping me deal with my issues. Ikenna didn't reply. Please, Ikenna. I don't expect forgiveness. Just a moment to say I'm sorry. He hung up without answering. Later that week he received a legal letter confirming her request. The law allowed supervised visitation once the therapist deemed it safe. Ziora was the one with the power to say yes or no. He sat her down gently. Zizi, your mom wants to see you. Only if you want. I will support whatever you choose. Ziora's eyes darkened. No. You sure? She didn't say sorry when I was hurting. Why now? He nodded. Okay. The court upheld the denial based on the child's refusal. That evening, as the sun dipped low, a car pulled up across their street. Inside, Adeabi sat watching the house. Ikenna came out slowly. She stepped out of the car, hands trembling. She really won't see me? No, he said. She doesn't feel safe. Adeabi's eyes brimmed with tears. Do you hate me? I don't have the energy to, he replied. She lowered her head. I never thought you'd be the one to stay. And I didn't think I'd be the one left outside. You hurt our child, he said simply. You lost the right to be inside. She cried. He didn't comfort her. He turned around and walked back toward the house. Through the window Ziora waved. Not at her mother, but at him. And he smiled. Because he was exactly where he was meant to be. The rain had just begun to fall, light and rhythmic, brushing against the glass windows like a lullaby. The air smelled of roasted corn from the street vendor nearby, and inside the Obi household, everything was calm. No tension. No shadows. Just peace. Ikenna sat in the living room, sipping warm ginger tea and reviewing architectural blueprints on his tablet when he heard soft footsteps. Daddy? Ziora peeked in from the hallway, holding a folded piece of paper. Yes, baby? She walked closer, her yellow socks sliding across the tiled floor. I wrote something. In therapy, Miss Clara said it's good to talk to our future selves. He smiled. Oh, want me to read it with you? She hesitated. Can I read it to you instead? He sat up straighter and patted the couch beside him. I'd be honored. Ziora climbed up beside him and unfolded the letter. Her handwriting was still large and uneven, but every word was deliberate. She took a deep breath and began. Dear me, I'm you, but from the past. I'm 10 years old and today I feel safe. I feel like I can breathe without hiding. I remember when I used to cry in the bathroom with my hands over my ears. I remember being told that I was too loud, too messy, too much. But now, Daddy listens when I speak. He makes me pancakes on Sundays and he tells me my thoughts matter. I want you to remember that we weren't always happy, but we became strong. Stronger than secrets. Stronger than silence. If one day you're older and something bad happens and you forget who you are, remember this day. Remember that Daddy opened the door and he saved us. Don't forget the smell of the cake on your 10th birthday. Or how Miss Clara said we were brave. Don't forget what it feels like to be hugged just because. Also, don't forget to hug Daddy a lot. Even when you're a teenager. He's a good man. He didn't run. He stayed. And that makes him my hero. Love. You. By the time she finished, Ikenna couldn't speak. His throat had closed up. He blinked rapidly to hold back the flood, but it was too late. A tear rolled down his cheek and then another. Ziora looked up at him, nervous. Was it okay? He nodded, wiping his face. It was more than okay. It was perfect. Miss Clara said I should frame it, she whispered. So I can always see it and remember. He stood up immediately. Then let's do it. They found an old black frame tucked in the closet. Ikenna removed a faded family picture, one with fake smiles and unseen bruises, and replaced it with the letter. Together, they hung it in the hallway between Ziora's room and his. That way, she said, it'll always be between us. Later that night, she placed her small hand in his as they walked into the kitchen for dinner. Daddy? Yes. Can we write a letter to someone else? He raised an eyebrow. Who? To another kid, who might be going through what I went through. He stopped mid-step. What would you want to tell them? She didn't pause. That it's not their fault. And that someone out there is waiting to open the door. They just need to hold on. Ikenna smiled and knelt beside her. Then maybe you were sent here for more than just surviving. She tilted her head. What do you mean? You're becoming someone who helps others feel safe. That's a gift, Zizi. A big one. She looked down thoughtfully then smiled. Maybe we should make a whole book. Letters for every kind of scared kid. That's a brilliant idea, he said. And I'll help you write it. That night, Ikenna stood in the hallway staring at the letter framed on the wall. Daddy opened the door. And he saved us. He reached out and touched the glass gently. But deep inside he knew the truth. She had saved him too. She'd reminded him what courage looked like. What love could feel like when it was unconditional. What it meant to show up, even when it was hard. The storm was over. But the story was just beginning. And it was being written one letter, one laugh, one hug at a time. 2 years had passed. The house looked different now, brighter, warmer. The walls had been repainted in soft peach, the curtains danced with the breeze, and laughter often floated through the air like birdsong. The garden Ziora once whispered to had flourished. Bright yellow sunflowers lined the walkway, and her little clay animal sculptures peeked from between bushes. A plaque by the garden gate read, "Let love grow where pain once lived." Ikenna stood at the kitchen island, packing lunch. He hummed a gospel tune under his breath as he carefully placed fruit slices into a lunchbox. A peanut butter sandwich followed. Then a small handwritten note. "Believe in yourself, superstar. Love always, Dad." He tucked it inside with a gentle smile. Just then Ziora stepped in, now 12, a little taller, hair braided neatly, eyes bright with purpose. She wore a blue polo shirt with a small embroidered logo that read, Guardian Kids Center. "Ready?" she asked, slipping on her backpack. "Of course," Ikenna replied, handing her the lunchbox. "You sure you don't want me to carry that on my own?" she teased, seeing him reach for his keys. He laughed. "You might be growing up, but I'm not giving up my job as chauffeur just yet." They stepped outside into the gentle morning sun. The neighborhood had softened its gaze over time. The stares had turned into waves. The whispers into greetings. At the Community Child Safety Center where Ziora now volunteered twice a week, Ikenna parked and turned to her. "You know I'm proud of you, right?" She nodded. "You tell me every day." "I mean it every time." She leaned over and kissed his cheek. "Love you, Daddy." Then she hopped out, backpack bouncing, waving to Miss Clara, her former therapist turned mentor. Ikenna watched for a moment before pulling away. Later that afternoon he returned for pickup. As he waited near the center's gates, the counselor on duty approached him. "Mr. Obi," she greeted warmly. "Yes. I just wanted to say, you've raised an incredible young lady. Today during Story Circle one of the new kids cried and your daughter stayed with her the whole time. Held her hand. Said, 'You're not alone.'" Ikenna swallowed. "She knows what alone feels like." The woman nodded. "She doesn't just volunteer here. She gives people hope." When Ziora climbed into the car, Ikenna looked at her differently, not as the fragile little girl who once trembled in a corner, but as a light bearer. "You okay?" she asked, noticing his gaze. "I was just thinking," he said, "how beautiful it is to see you shine." She rolled her eyes in mock embarrassment. "You're such a dad. And proud of it." That evening Ikenna sat on the front porch, watching the golden sky melt into dusk. Ziora joined him, 2 cups of zobo in hand. "To us?" she said, raising her cup. "To us?" he echoed, clinking gently. They sipped in silence. "Do you ever think about her?" Ziora asked suddenly, eyes focused on the horizon. "A Deabi?" She nodded. "Sometimes," he said. "Not with hate. Just wonder. I wonder if she's healing. I hope she is." Ziora nodded thoughtfully. "Me too. But I don't miss her." "That's okay. I miss the idea of her. You know, how moms are supposed to be." Ikenna placed his hand over hers. "I understand. Sometimes I write her letters," she admitted. "But I never send them. I just put them in my journal. He didn't speak for a moment. Then, that's brave, Zizi. That's how healing happens. She smiled faintly. And you? Do you still keep your notebook? He chuckled. I haven't needed to write in it for months. Why not? Because the reason I started writing now sits beside me every evening. She blushed and leaned her head against his shoulder. Daddy? Oh, do you know what today is? He glanced at his phone. Tuesday. She giggled. No. It's exactly 2 years since you came home early. His hand paused mid-sip. That day changed everything, she said. I still remember the look on your face. He exhaled. I was terrified and angry, but mostly I was ashamed. Why ashamed? Because I hadn't seen the truth sooner. She shook her head. But you did see it. And you didn't look away. He turned to her, eyes misty. You saved me too, Zizi. I hope you never forget that. They sat in silence for a moment longer. Then she said, Daddy? Yes. Smile. He raised an eyebrow. Why? Because I want to remember this moment. He smiled. Not the kind forced by politeness. Not the kind shaped for social gatherings. But a real, unfiltered smile. One that came from peace. Ziora leaned in, snapped a quick picture on her tiny Polaroid camera, and handed him the photo as it developed. He looked down at it, himself, aged by time but softened by love, smiling under the sunset. She wrote on the bottom of the photo. The day the smile stayed. And this time, it did. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.